camera work. Thank you. All right, we've gone through the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll call the regular meeting to order. This is the Board of Selectmen meeting of the 6th of January. We've done the Pledge of Allegiance. Any additional agenda or consent items?
I don't have any.
Hearing none. Delegations. Members of the public would like to speak. Anybody? Anyone? Sounds coordinated.
I hadn't realized that the town of East Lyme has become a banana republic and that we have a fascist administration here. I was informed by a telephone call the other night that I was no longer going to be appointed to the Wetlands Commission for various reasons because of comments that I had put on a New London Day. I guess free speech in this town doesn't mean anything. I'm really not losing anything, but I want to tell you what the taxpayers in the town of East Lyme are using in Joe Mingo. I've been 20 years on the invasive plant working group at UConn and consider myself an expert in invasive plants. I've spent 500 hours to become a certified tree warden with the state of Connecticut and consider myself an expert witness any time involved in trees. I've gone to Cackaway conferences for the last 15 years. I've studied wetland laws, and I've also studied all the legal cases that go along, so I fully understand how wetland laws work. I was on the commission when it was a joint group, conservation and wetlands, and was instrumental in getting the two agencies split so that so each of us could do our job. I just don't understand why I'm being treated like this. I was removed as a tree warden for some trumped up charge. And I guess one of the things that the state statute gives the tree warden, by state statute, it's not something may, it's something he shall do, is to remove illegal signs. But I guess it's all right for the first selectman to go out and pick up illegal signs on the street, which he did during the election. He ought to have been ashamed of himself. It's the taxpayers in the town of East Lyme that are losing, not me. The second issue I have over here is the fact that I can't go on and get a set of minutes to the town building committee. They haven't met in how long? Who the hell is overseeing the building of the boardwalk? I thought we had a town building committee for that. Who oversaw the buildings of the buildings in Cheney Park, or in down on the beach, two buildings that were built? The town building committee had nothing to do with them. So I can't go, this has become a closed government. I can't go on and get a set of minutes to find out how much money has been spent. I'm kind of curious to what's going on with the boardwalk. Do we have any cost overruns? I have no way of knowing. There's no public accountability at all. And there's something wrong because I thought our town charter said we had a town building committee was responsible for building buildings and for projects in town. I don't know where that went, but apparently it's come down to the point where the town employees are now running the town of East Lyme, and that the boards and commissions are all to lunch. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Mingo. Mr. Drabeck, do you have something to say?
Yeah.
Good.
Come to my attention that the Board of Selectmen is limiting discussion to the first selectman during delegations. Now, delegations was something that never existed till Randall, myself, and a half a dozen others came here, argued, so we could make an agenda item. That goes way back to the Cheney administration, before a lot of you people even were in town. Now I understand that if you don't like what the people are saying, the first selectman has the authority to say your 5 minutes is up, sit down. It doesn't fly, I'll tell you, with me or anybody else. Now there's some people that don't keep their comments too brief, tough. That's the way it is. You want to This government, like Joe Mingo was kind of right, has turned into a sort of its own monster. It no longer works for the people. You take care of yourselves. I watched Rob Wilson proclamation. Here's a guy that was in trouble for, it looks like, theft from the town, drinking while driving, and a few other things. The next thing you know, you proclaim Rob Wilson Day. You had Joe Mingo standing up here. Here's a guy who's been in town for 30 years, sat on boards and commissions, whether you like him or not, whether he's a horse's ass or not. Hey, you're going to give him a proclamation too? You people are pretty sad. Looks like you take care of yourselves more than you take care of the taxpayer. Now, I want to talk about cell towers for a little bit. We all know I have a chance for a cell tower, had a chance, whatever. I had a first selectman who decided he wanted to go out and spot cell towers throughout town, driving around with an AT&T person looking for this site and that site, knocking on doors. No, don't do that. You told us how hard you worked looking for other sites. Well, fine. People get paid to do that. They get commissions for doing it. Yet I paid a first selectman to drive around and knock on doors working for AT&T, Verizon, or who else wanted a cell tower. It's independence, and that's how they make a living. This is wrong. You people have forgotten about what town government is. You take care of yourselves. You're not working for the taxpayers anymore. Now, these meetings, you call them your meeting because it says Board of Selectmen. But technically, they're the townspeople's. We're town meeting rule. You're just a board. You have to listen to the people. You don't. You decide you don't like what people are saying. You say your 5 minutes is up. Yeah, I can't drag this out 5 more minutes so you can say it's up. I don't have to. It's wrong. I'd like you people to sit down, reevaluate, and delegations should go unlimited. I don't care if 10 people get up and say the same thing for an hour. And it's happened in the past, and most likely because you deserved it. Now, different subject, boardwalk. Took a walk down it the other day on the new section that opened up. I look over the side, I'm looking down 10, 15 feet, tide was out. Where's all the armament that we were told about was gonna be there? I looked in the plans that I put online, 6 to 8 ton armament stones at the base, toe, no sign of anything down there. No sign of any of the fabric we were told was going to be there or any of the armament. I see loose stones scattered about, and it's all the same stones that were scavenged out of the Amtrak revetment when they built the thing. It's pretty sad. The other sad facet is, when we approved this boardwalk, what we approved is 5,300 feet of a wooden structure. Remember the old boardwalk on what is now the Amtrak section, which is now concrete? Aside from the fact it's not what we voted for, it's been destroyed twice in a storm. We paid again, and we still haven't given the voter what they actually voted for. You people are pretty sad. You sit up there and pat yourselves on the back like you did a good thing. Rando's right. You blew about $20 million, and you still haven't delivered on what you said you were going to deliver. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Dravick, anybody else? Anything tonight? Anything? Okay, we'll move on. Approval of the minutes, December 16, 2015.
Move approval of the minutes of the December 16, 2015 meeting minutes as presented.
Second?
I have a correction.
Okay.
I'd like to, page 5, motion 26, Mr. Solano moved to appoint Tom Bolin and Eric Cantor, it should say, to Harbor Management Commission.
Should say Waterford East Lyme Shellfish Commission, shouldn't it?
Is that,
Yeah, that's the,
Yes.
that's the Waterford
Yes.
Shellfish.
well, let's go.
Waterford East Lyme
Yeah,
Shellfish
thank you.
Commission.
Okay, so we made corrections?
Yep.
You want to amend your,
As
as
amended.
amended?
Second, as amended.
As amended. So we'll take one vote then on an amended minute presentation or package here. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? Consent calendar?
Move to approve the consent calendar in the amount of $884.07 for the January 6, 2016 Board of Selectmen meeting.
Second?
Motion, and it's been seconded. Any comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any-
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Discussion regarding the public hearing of the ordinance that we just had.
Want me to put the resolution on first? and then-
Sure.
Okay. Move the following resolution. Resolve that the ordinance prescribing fees for building and demolition permits is amended as follows. A, Section 4 of the above title ordinance is deleted and the following is substituted in its place instead. 4, permit fees shall be payable for any work to be done by or for the town, including the Board of Education, provided that any such fees for the first $2 million of construction value for any town project shall be waived. B, all other provisions of the above titled ordinance shall remain in full force and effect. The foregoing amendment shall be effective 15 days after the publication of notice of its adoption.
Second.
Any comments?
Yes. To follow up on Mr. Mingo's comment, I had not considered the fact of the bonding of that $2 million in the permit fees. We're paying ourselves, right?
Correct.
So we're waiving the fee. So why would
Waiving the
that?
fee under $2 million, and we have been ongoing forever.
So,
Well, a while ago, we
So
changed
then
that.
why would this then go into the bonding package if we're waiving the fee?
We wouldn't, no. Anything under 2 million, we'd be waiving the fee and we absorb it within the building department downstairs. If it was a $10 million police station, we would be charging the appropriate fee for that square footage of building in that $10 million building. And we would not waive the fee, we would charge the fee to the project.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a $100,000 salary, not many people in this town get that to begin with, so it would really be talking about a part-timer coming in for maybe $25,000 on a 50,000 square foot building. And at 1% or the 2% bond rate or bond rates that we get right now, it would certainly not add up to $500,000 when you're done paying for it over 20 years. It would be part of the project, just like the steel, just like the asphalt in the project and everything else. It would be bonded over the 20 years. But if you're talking about a $90 million school project, which is really how this kind of came about, realizing that we would be crushed as a town with all those services we'd have to provide for this $90 million project, yet reap no benefit, so it would be stuck onto the operations budget. It would be significant fees, and there'd be significant work to be done.
So in effect, this allows us to finance over time the cost of any additional building inspectors, as opposed to finding it out of that given year's operating budget.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
Well, that's one of the things I like, is you're identifying the cost of us having to place a building inspector, and even possibly fire marshal services up there too, because with a school, I would imagine there'd be a lot of town officials needing to be up there to give their approvals to a lot of things being done. This way, you identify the costs up front rather than have to, assign it to your operating budget as the year goes on, and things pop up. And like I said, I don't think it'd probably be a part-timer. I don't see it being a long-term commitment for the additional help. Sort of like we hire a clerk of the works.
Yes.
To make sure that the
Exactly.
project is done. We try to do that in any large building project. You hire a clerk of the works who makes sure the work is done properly, and that cost has always been put right into the project. This is the same thing, and when it's done, that clerk of the works is done. He's not longer an employee of the town or so forth. Or never actually was.
It's typical, as Al Jakunski, who is designing the school building project, it's typical for towns to charge fees into the projects.
Yes.
He was shocked that we weren't. That was another identifier that in Waterford they did, I believe. That was the last project he worked on. In other projects, they do charge fees to town projects as well, because of at least to the school projects, because of the amount of work that's being done.
Well,
very typical.
I can understand a salary for the clerk of the works. To me, that's not a fee. That's a person that is hired specifically for that job, and so that would be because of the project. This is talking about fees.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There would be ongoing. I think Mr. Seawood brought up a good point. I mean, there's not just Joe Smith's group. There's fire marshal's group that would be out there nearly every day with sprinklers and with all that. There would be all sorts of different services provided in building. As we provided for Gateway, and they paid a large amount of fees to pay for those services. And it's supposed to be a wash. The town's not supposed to profit over a major project like Gateway, like Costco, like a school building project, but it's supposed to cover the fees and cover the costs.
Well, now we're mixing private with public.
Very same, though. I mean, if you're talking about Costco, which is a 150,000 square foot building, which will take a year and a half to build, at least a year. They're going to pay a whole lot of fees, and we're going to do a whole lot of services. And yes, we'll probably hire extra people from those fees, specifically for that project.
Right, and they should pay for that.
Yeah, and they do.
Right, but now we're talking about the public sector.
And should that project be self-contained? Should that project, be self-contained? Pay the fees needed for the project, or should it come out of operations? If it comes out of operations, it really kind of now you are hiring full timers, and then there is a situation. What happens at the end of the project? Now you have an employee, whereas a lot of these specialty projects, I think for Gateway, did we hire like a consulting firm or a contractor firm that came in and did most of the engineering, I believe. And if it wasn't at Gateway, it was another project where it wasn't Gateway, it was mostly Joe.
Yeah, it wasn't for Gateway.
Yeah.
When they had the water main, the water break there.
Yeah.
So we had a consultant that Gateway paid for.
Right.
That was what-
Brought outside.
That was not at a cost to the town.
Right.
I'll just add that I think it was a good point that we are financing, which is a little concerning to me. I hate thinking we're financing some of this labor over a 20-year period, but I also believe that separating our operational budget, keeping our operation budget smooth as possible, because we're going to have these peaks for special projects. There is advantages to keeping them separate so that we don't have to keep adjusting our operational budget. We can keep that more flatlined and keep our special project budgets. Getting fees for this would cover that. So even though I am concerned about that it could lead to financing of our own labor, I do think it's better so that just keep them separate.
Okay.
And one final thing is, I think by having it in there into the project, you're dedicating someone to be up there. Here again, we know Joe, his office, Joe Smith has been busy in his office and so forth like that. And if we do have a big building project and other things going on, you want to be sure that the time is there that they can get up on a regular, whatever is needed to be up there to look at it. And I wouldn't think that we're talking $500,000 over the life of a project. I'm thinking a year and a half, you're probably talking, if you're paying someone 20 hours a week or something like that, you're definitely not talking a lot of money over a long period of time.
And it's kind of more honest for what the actual project's going to cost.
The cost of the project.
If we add that in,
Keeps it
because
within
that is
the
a
cost of the
cost,
project, yeah.
and it needs to be factored in. And when the final price tag gets put before the taxpayer, we know what it's really going to cost.
And I also think it makes your budgetary projections more predictable.
Yeah.
Because it's tied to a particular project. And it's just, all you're doing is you're amortizing that cost over the life of the payback on the project.
The use of it.
Which I think makes sense.
Further comments? We'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Great. 2B is authorized first selectman to sign ICE program grant. Mr. Bergaw is here, our award-winning Public Works Director. You might want to talk a little bit more about, you've been here before on this ICE program grant, the grapple truck. We have, several resolutions floating. But
Yeah.
maybe if you could explain it first, and then we'll go through
but
the
just as a
resolution.
quick I put a resolution in this package, but at the time I wasn't able to talk to Attorney O'Connor. He, after the fact, if I had to get this package together, put together that resolution, very similar, but his words are always better than mine, so better coming from an attorney. That's where we're at. So, we were in front of the Board of Selectmen back in October, talking about this issue. OPM COG, everyone's trying to, can we regionalize things, and can we look at it? And here is a program, exactly what we're trying to do is they're trying to allow communities to join together and purchase equipment that can be shared by multiple communities. And in this program here, the state, or the OPM, is willing to contribute a sizable amount on this. In this case, because we joined with New London, as part of the grant goes to a OPM, it's a 60% reimbursement, but if there's a distressed community involved and New London is actually in that list, then it's an 80%. So our office, I talked to Chuck Holyfield, our highway supervisor. It was a great opportunity to be able to secure a use of a very valuable piece of equipment that a town could use, whether it's from bulky pickup, whether it's from picking up the large stumps, to whether when you come in a big storm, and we've had a lot of those in the last few years, you can't get a piece of equipment like that when things start hammering down. And so we put in for a grant, we worked with it, I came in front of this board, you guys approved it in concept, and then we got approved from OPM to go to the next level. The next level is we had to enter into an intermediate local agreement with the committees. And we don't have this grant yet. That's the next step, is once two communities, in this case, enter that agreement and we provide the agreement, then they will say whether we're awarded or not. So that's where we're at. This has to be in by February 1st. The City of New London has already approved this grant. I did work with Attorney O'Connell and Attorney Laundrigan from New London, the Public Works Director in New London, and myself, and we all kind of fleshed out all the key points in the agreement. I mean, it is always tricky as far as, and that's why this agreement is here, because the state wants to do these things, is how do two municipalities in New England share anything? And that's why those things are talked about in this agreement. Just to be clear, you probably read this in here, but the intention of this piece of equipment is to be housed and maintained in the City of New London. We would be the ones who would call them up and use it. Their intentions, just so you know, is to use it one day a week for bulky cleanup, in city. They just don't have, this is what they need. We could use it for bulky cleanup ourselves. We could, a lot of times there's trees down and there's humongous, you've seen them on the side of the road, there's humongous stumps, and we have to bring the backhoe over there. This piece of equipment, we can just drive out there. You get out, the driver, as you saw a picture, they don't have to get up on the top. It's a remote control crane. Go pick it up, put it in the truck, off it goes. But it would be maintained and housed in New London. One little trickier thing about it is, and it's covered in here, but how do you insure it? It's covered in here. The asset is actually, as it says in the agreement, the City of New London has the asset. But we talked to Kerma, and they're all good with Kerma is the insurer, New London the insurer of East Lyme. We would be additionally a certificate holder.
An additional name.
Yeah, it's exactly as if we leased a piece of equipment and we do it. We lease mini excavators, we lease different things. It's the exact same concept. The owner of the piece of equipment is the leasing company, and we would just be a certificate of insurance. So all the other stuff in the agreement, I think is favorable to the town of East Lyme. I mean, if anything goes wrong with it, they pay for 80% of it. We pay for 20%. They really want this piece of equipment, and we would like to enter into it. So that's where we're at. And if you have any questions, I'd love to answer.
I'll put a resolution out first.
Oh, let's put a resolution up first. Sure.
Yeah,
Oh, can we put a resolution out and then have the public's comment, or?
No, I just
should that
want to
happen?
make one
Yes.
observation.
yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask for.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in the circumstances, I think it's theoretical.
Yeah.
Is that me?
Yeah, yeah. It's your pacemaker or something.
All right. This would fall under the category of an interlocal agreement. And previously, interlocal agreements were entered into upon very cumbersome procedures that each town had to follow. And the statutes were amended a few years ago to greatly streamline that. And in the present version of the statutes regarding interlocal agreements, there is not the necessity of pre-notice publication in newspapers, but they do require that the legislative body provide an opportunity to comment before voting. Looking at the assemblage here, I don't think there would be any opportunity to comment, but would be worthwhile for the record to reflect that the Board of Selectmen did provide an opportunity to comment upon the resolution which will be moved.
Okay. You've already seen the resolution?
Yes.
And you're okay, okay. Move the following resolution. Resolved to authorize the first selectman in the name and on behalf of the town to execute and deliver an interlocal agreement of purchase of capital equipment between the City of New London and the Town of East Lyme pertaining to the purchase and use of a grapple truck to be used by their Public Works Department in various municipal projects. The first selectman is also authorized to execute such other documents and take such other action as may be necessary or desirable to effectuate said purchase.
Second?
There's a second on the floor. I'd like to give any members of the public, there are a couple here tonight, so you're welcome to speak on this, this resolution. We're not buying the truck tonight. This is an authorization to go into the grant process.
To get the grant, we have to enter into
Is it MOU or?
And then once
Okay.
we were to provide it, then we have to go through the authorization process.
So there's many more steps involved. This is simply to move this thing down the road some more.
I have a question for the town attorney. Do you think merely the first selectman saying tonight, inviting comment, is sufficient to fulfill the intent of the statute? We will be meeting again this month. Are we better advised, should someone object, that there was not sufficient notice given to postpone this to the next meeting?
No, I
Because
think-
that would get you in under the, I just want to make sure, knowing that there are people who might
Yep.
very well object if they didn't feel they'd been given sufficient opportunity to comment, whether announcing that we will be postponing it, inviting anyone who would like to comment to come to the next meeting. I just want to make sure this is, we've dot all the i's and cross all the t's.
I think we have dotted the i's and crossed the
Okay.
t's, and I would note that this is the exact procedure employed by New London, and
Okay.
New London has previously authorized its officials to execute this agreement, this interlocal agreement.
Okay.
It
And
does
obvi-
appear
I
on
mean,
the
this was
agenda.
on the agenda for tonight, so it's not as though we're springing on, but I just want to make
That's
sure
right.
we've fulfilled the intent of the requirements of the statute.
I think we have, and as a matter of fact, that was one of the goals of amending the statute, to streamline this,
Okay.
to not
Thank
make
you.
it as cumbersome as it was in the past.
Thank you.
I would also note that we had previous public discussion of this issue, and it has been in the minutes, which have been available online, as a prelude or precursor to it appearing on tonight's agenda.
Thank you.
All right, I'd start off the discussion.
Sure.
I like the fact that we're not looking for new money. It seems that this is an appropriate use of money that has already been accrued by the sale of a previous vehicle. And so we're not adding to the budget. This is money that's already been garnered by the Public Works Department. At least you'd use the $17,000 from that, correct? We need to fund $17,000.
That is correct.
And that money is coming from the sale of previously sold vehicles.
Ironically, New London paid us $80,000 for 2 trucks, and now we're gonna pay back $17,000 because we paid it. They bought 2 rear loading we moved to all the automated loaders
Right.
except for one that we pick up Christmas trees and cardboard. So ironically, they gave us some money, and now we're using some of that, which is a perfect use, as you say, for a bargain basement. You know, we sold them 2 old garbage trucks and are getting a $170,000 piece of equipment for $17,000.
So, good going. Thank you for that.